And I'm going to try not to cry because I'm a thug.
Look, I'm looking in your eyes.
Okay.
And they looking like...
They're looking a little glossy.
They looking a little...
And that was the moment where I realized...
Welcome to the Real Refined Podcast, where faith and the mind meet. I'm your host, Bri. And I'm your host, Tiara. Tap in.
What's up, Real Refined fam? It's your girl, Tee and Bri, and we are back with another episode.
Another one.
Okay. Okay, so we all have heard the saying, it ran into my family until it ran into me. And I feel like it's a very cute and even a powerful saying. But what about the reality of what it means to break generational curses? How do we identify a generational curse? It's a lot of weight to carry when you have to break a pattern. So that's what we're going to get into today. So Bri, when you hear generational curse, because this is something that not just people in church, this is something that people in general talk about. What comes to mind when you hear that word?
I always think about a cycle. I think about, and it's a toxic cycle where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it takes somebody to just say, wait a minute, I don't want to be on the hamster wheel anymore. Let me make a change. Let me do something different. And it could be anything. It could be the way that you communicate. It could be any other toxic habits. But when we think about breaking generational curses or just changing the narrative in general, it takes intentionality, but it takes awareness to say, look, there are certain things that happen in my childhood, in my adulthood, where I don't want to now do that with my children. Right. So that's the it for me. That there were certain things that have happened, and there are certain things that I didn't like in my childhood that I don't do with my children. Like my children have a voice. I didn't feel like I had much of a voice as a child. Yeah. It was, you need to listen to me and that's it, because I said so and that's it. Yeah. Right? But with my children, teaching them about their emotions, to me that breaks the barrier of communication. Yeah. So when I think about generational curses, it's not all about the bad stuff. It's those little fine things that when they grow up, they can have healthy boundaries. They can know what a boundary is. They can have healthy communication. They can know what it means to communicate your feelings and to know that it's okay, especially for young men. It is okay to cry. It is okay to just feel like you're upset. One thing with what I do with my children, and I love that I do, is that when they're upset about something, it's okay that you're angry, but how you respond, that's the key. So you can't go and throw all your stuff around the room because you're mad. You can't go stumping off. Communicate. What is wrong? Yeah. You know, so when I think about that, it's just like, what can I change? And it's hard. Yeah. Because you only know what you know. You know how people say, like, you're a product of your environment? I believe that's true. It is. And there are certain conversations that my mom did not have with me or my dad did not have with me that I have with my children. And I feel like if I had those conversations as a child, there would be some things that are different. You know what I'm saying? So what about you? What are your thoughts with that?
Well, before I go into that, I just want to attest to the fact that, like, this is real. Like, I've seen Bri do this in real time on the phone with her kids. Yeah. And I always am like, you have so much patience. And, like, you know, I am, you know, not a mother yet. And it's just very interesting to see with a lot of my friends that are mothers, and just I have a lot of amazing women in my life that are mothers, to see the kind of difference in the dynamic of how y'all parent your children compared to the way that we all know most of us were parented. Yeah. And I think they call it gentle parenting. And I mean, of course, we like to put a label on everything, but I just think that it's essentially breaking a toxic cycle of the way that parenting was done before us. And I want to say, when it comes to parenting, that, you know, we're fully aware of the fact that, like, every generation of parents did the best that they could, right?
Yeah, from what they knew.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's amazing to see that there are people that were raised one way and they've made a conscious decision and effort to do it differently with their children. They've recognized, like, okay, I turned out okay, but this, I didn't like how it felt when it was me, so I'm going to be conscious of not doing that with my children. I think that is amazing. That's been one of the things, y'all in my business, that I think has made me afraid, and I don't feel that way anymore as much. to have children is I thought that I was going to parent and make my children feel the way that I felt sometimes as a kid.
Ooh,
And I was
yeah.
like, I don't want to do that because I feel like even now in a lot of areas, I lack patience. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to my kids or make them feel like I don't have like to sit down and explain it to them. And I don't mean like as a little kid, of course, like my parents were extremely patient, but just as you get older and, you're going through different changes and, you're dealing with different issues at school and you get a little rebellious, you get curious about things, like the patience to really sit down and say, hey, this is what life was like for me when I was your age. So I get it. And these are my standards and rules for you.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love to hear and see. And I know for you, I have actually witnessed you, if your childhood was not what you do with your children, I've seen you break that. And I'm just now recognizing like, that's pretty dope.
Hey,
That you
thank
did that.
you.
But yeah, when it comes to generational curses, I think that generational curses are, like I said, it's something that everybody talks about. But I think sometimes we don't recognize the full scope of it.
Yeah.
So generational curses are the result of what I would say are generational iniquities. So there are things that people, or sins that people have done that we have like, I can't think of the word right now, but we have like a habit or we have a natural inclination or a natural leaning to that can lead to certain outcomes. One of the main things that comes to my mind, especially in the Black community, and I'm sure in other cultures, is like our relationship with food. That is something that, because of lack of self-control and I'm sure in a lot of ways, like lack of resources and things like that. But for a lot of us, lack of resources is not the thing. It's just we have developed a habit of, this is how we eat. This is what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, we don't do that. We don't do hiking. We don't do that. And that's more so the older generations.
Yeah.
But even something as simple and as natural as that, because that doesn't seem very spiritual, right? But that mindset of, this is how we do things, it can lead to an outcome such as health issues. I know there's not a Black family that I know that does not have people that suffer from diabetes, high blood pressure, and a plethora of other health problems. And I really think that it's a result of us having a certain mindset that we're not willing to change when it comes to our relationship with food and health, and making sure that we're actually going to the doctor to get checked for things.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think that that's really important. I think that's a huge part of, like you said, the awareness. So where do you think, what are the areas, like what is it that we're looking for, or what are the signs that, this is not just a one-off thing, but that this might actually be a generational curse? Because a lot of times when we're talking about generational curses, we're only looking as far as our parents. We don't look outside of our house. Like, it's not just your parents' stuff, it's your aunts and uncles, it's your grandparents, it's your great-grandparents, it's your cousins. It's what are the patterns. So when you're looking to be aware of what's in your family, like what are some of the things that you would look for?
Oh, goodness. I think the first thing that I would look for, especially in my family, would be a lack of communication, like areas where communication is lacked. And I'm not saying, no, I am saying it, look for it. Like, I think it's important to actually be intentional and look for those things that just does not seem right. There's just certain things that we just know that's not right, like molestation. Like, we know that's not right.
Oh my God,
but
that's
it's
a big one.
extremely common.
Yeah.
Or, like I said, communication. One generational curse that I'm intentional about breaking in my family is the awareness of mental health. And I know, as a child, I was not taught about depression. Even as a teen, like I didn't have the conversations about depression and anxiety or any other, mental illness. So I want to make sure that, because I've seen it in my family, where not my immediate family, but just overall, where there's my family that suffers with depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and everyone's saying like, oh, they're just acting crazy. No, that's something that's actually wrong. And instead of trying to help them, we're going to talk about them.
Yep.
Like, and that's going to continue unless somebody stops it.
Yeah.
Unless someone says, no, like, can we actually get this family member some real help? Instead of getting on the phone and talking about, oh, they're so crazy, they're doing X, Y, Z, and gossiping about it. How about actually ask this family member, like, how can I support you? That is going to start breaking that generational curse, because now it's not, we're just going to talk about you and say that you're all of these things, that you're crazy, this, that, and the third. It's, hold up, something's actually wrong.
Yeah.
So even with my children, it's just like when they're sad, why are you sad? Did something happen?
Yeah.
Sometimes there are just down days. So let's talk about what depression means.
Yeah.
If they know this now, they will be able to grow up and also adapt to it and know how to overcome those things. If I knew how to overcome like anxiety, that would be different. If I knew how to overcome depression, things would be different. I would have experienced the bout of depression a little bit different. And depression is real.
Yeah.
But I just think it just takes an intentional look at what is not right.
Yeah.
What is just not working? Like, are these the same cycles, the same things happening over and over again? And I love my family, but I'm intentional about just kind of like letting them do,
Yeah.
like whatever it is y'all gonna do. I love you.
Yeah.
But because I'm intentional about not having that into my space and into the family that I created with my husband, I'm looked at as, oh, Bri acting funny. I'm not acting any kind of way.
Yeah.
I just don't want to deal with whatever y'all have going on.
Yeah.
I'm very out of sight, out of mind. And sometimes that can be looked at as a bad thing. I want to support them, but I don't want to be involved with whatever they have going on, because they may not want to break the generational curse. And another thing is that just having a conversation with one of my family members just yesterday, she wants to have like a sit down and change things. I'm like, okay, I think that's great, but the people on the receiving end have to want to make that change. Yeah. So if said family member is not ready or even willing to listen to you to make that change, it's not going to happen. Generational curses require all of us in our family to say, you know what, this is not right. We don't want to continue this on to our next generation. So let's just nip this in the bud right here. Yeah. It's intentionality. And I think we're afraid to do that because that one bold person that says it is now the black sheep, or you're being different. And I'm not being different. I just don't want to operate like this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it goes so many different ways. Yeah. I just think, again, intentionality, and we can't be afraid to use our voices,
that's important. I think especially and you kind of mentioned it, but I think it should be put out there, like, especially when it comes to like incest, rape, molestation in families, like that is something that is so common, and like
they
you
want to
said,
hide it.
Speaking up is the thing that I feel like allows those cycles and those things to continue. That is an example, the fact that the first family member did that, because often what you'll find, and I'll just be transparent, what I found in my family was the one day that there was a conversation about it, and I don't remember if the family member said it first or I said it first, but one of us said it first, and we found out that the same distant cousin had done it to both of us. And I think that silence is what allows those things to continue. Yep. The first person like that had the idea that, and in a lot of the ways too, I believe that it starts with curiosity. Bodies are changing and, feelings are there. And then like you just mentioned, and I think I mentioned, like, your parents are not having these conversations with you about, you better not bring home no baby. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no conversation about what do I do with this, that curiosity. And then the first person that chooses to kind of, for lack of better words, scratch the itch in that way with who's most available and vulnerable around them, that begets a generational iniquity. That is the first time that this sin or this thing has been committed in this way. And when people don't speak up and don't say anything, they're not. And when I say speak up and say anything, I'm not even just talking about the victim that this happened to and telling somebody, but also family members, like, educating, like, hey, this is not what we do, and address it. But a lot of times they want to protect the person because it's embarrassing. And I think we got to get over that. Yeah. A lot of times, stuff continues because people are too embarrassed to say, my brother has schizophrenia, my sister, touched me, or whatever. Nobody wants to address that because it's embarrassing for your family name. But when nobody says anything, it continues. I think people need to educate. And then also, I'm a big believer in, we don't just go to church and read this Bible because it's the American way. Like, there is power and authority in the word. And, we still need praying grandmothers, but also we need praying aunts, uncles, mothers, cousins,
all of them.
like everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, to be in prayer, because every family comes with some stuff. Every family. There's some stuff going on and some patterns that are there in every family. But I think that when we don't approach things in prayer and we're too busy trying to sweep things under the rug, it allows those things to continue to perpetuate. What I have found is that molestation in a lot of families, and mine, it was generational. It did not just happen there. It had happened in the generation before us, and I'm sure the generation before us and the generation before them. It's not something it's not just about the person that is doing it. Even for the family member that has a mental illness or that has an addiction, it's not just about the person that's doing it. And you said something interesting. What is the root of this? Where did all of this begin? And how can we, because there's some stuff, and I'm going to say something because we're real refined. This is where faith and mindset meet. We're all about therapy and mental health. But there are some things, and I believe that it's beautiful that we are finally in a space where we can talk about mental health and therapy in a healthy way. But there are some things that are not mental health. They are spiritual. Yeah. And if you want to attack certain problems and certain tumors and abnormalities in your bloodline, you can go to therapy, of course, because you have to learn how to cope and deal with the trauma. You have to learn how to cope and deal with life. But you also should be attacking it in prayer and warfare and fasting. I think it is a beautiful thing. One of my friends just shared that her mom had everybody get together, and as a family, they went on a fast and prayed, and they saw results within the week that they did it. Our families are not coming together to attack things. What we come together to do is, like you said, talk.
Talk.
Girl, did you hear what such and such did? You know such and such got outside, baby. Well, so did daddy, and so did grandpa, and so did great-grandpa. So it seems to me like that's a pattern.
Oh.
But we make it about the person. It's not about the person. Last time I checked, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. And it's very much so us falling into the sin and making a decision. But this is not a flesh and blood thing. It's not just, oh, this is the bad uncle. Yeah, what he did is messed up and he needs to be in jail. However, if we want the problem to stop, if we don't want another child in the family to have their innocence taken, if we don't want another person in the family to be dealing with, schizophrenia or whatever those mental health issues are, where is the prayer and fasting? Who's getting to the root? Who's waking up in the middle of the night to pray? Who's being unctioned to pray? Who's looking in the word to see how can I combat this in the spirit? And I think that with that and with therapy, I think that some of the things that we've seen running in our families, that those things actually have the authority. Well, really the word got the authority to do it by itself. But also we got to cope. We got to learn how to deal. And I think that therapy is supported in the Bible. But I think that we can start to actually break those curses in that way by looking at it holistically and not just talking about it.
Yeah.
My question for you too is, in recognizing, hey, that there's a generational curse at work, like, do you think that, because you kind of said it takes the whole family, so do you think that if it's not the whole family, if it's one or two people that recognize it, like you might have cousins that are like, man, we see the same thing. Do you think that if everybody's not on board, that these things can be stopped?
Yeah, I do.
How does that work?
So I feel one thing to remember is that after we get married and we leave our families, we're now creating our own generation, our own families, right? And we get to choose if we want to take what we have from our original family. Do we want to bring that into our family that we've created? Because that's really how it works. Like
Yeah.
all of our cousins, aunties, uncles, they all create their own sets of families, and they start bringing the generational curses into now their family, so it now continues. So for me, I chose not to bring those things over here. So that means when my children continue on with their families, they won't take those into theirs. So it stops somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, I wish it was the whole family, because as I look at it right now, I'm not operating in the same way that I was, taught, but I see my family members doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I absolutely believe that it can be the whole family, but it can be stopped if it is just your set few.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, that's also how it continues.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's also how it's going to continue, because you're creating your set of family, because we all go off when we have children and we create our own families. So you get to choose. I feel like everything is about a choice.
Yeah.
Like we get a chance to choose, do I want this or that every day? And I get to choose to have the reminder with my children, like, hey, remember, no one touches you there. What if someone does touch you there? Like, we have those raw conversations. We talk about their body parts. Like, we talk about these kind of things. We talk about communicating. Those are things that I did not receive.
Yeah.
So now I get to full transparency. So years ago, I caught myself in something because my son was scared of something. And I remember shutting him down, like, chill out. Like, you shouldn't even, why are you even scared right now? I shut it down. And then I was like, he was really scared. So he cried, and it broke my heart. And I was just like, wow, I just hugged him. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you were actually afraid of this. And I caught myself, because that's kind of what happened to me. Like, if you bring something to your parents, I don't got time for that right now. Just, you need to go on somewhere.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try not to cry, because I'm a thug.
Look, I'm looking in your eyes.
Okay.
And they looking like,
they're looking a little glossy.
they looking a little.
And that was the moment where I realized that I don't want to do that. I don't want to shut my babies down. I don't want them to feel like they don't have a voice. I don't want them to feel like they can't come, mommy, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I want them to know that you can come.
With whatever.
Whatever, anything, all of it, no shame. It's to the point now, because, they teach, there's different things going around in schools.
Yeah.
So, who's in 6th grade?
Mm-hmm.
I gotta stop saying that my kids' names on here. Cut that out.
Bleep that.
Bleep,
please.
bleep, bleep. So my son, there's different things they're learning in school.
Yeah.
And so he'll come home and he'll be like, what does this word mean? And instead of shutting him down, I'll tell him.
Yeah.
This word means that. You shouldn't say it though. He's like, oh, okay. Same thing with my daughter. What does this mean? I'll tell her. Like the other day, she said, psychopath. I was like, hey, do you know what psychopath means? She was like, no. I said, okay, let's look it up.
Yeah.
I want to teach them.
I love that.
If you're going to say this word, do you know what this word means?
Right.
So it just takes us making a change. And that's why I was transparent. Like, I saw that when I shut him down, that was something that happened to me. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make them feel how I felt.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do it without knowing that we're doing it.
That's what I wanted to get to. So I think a big part of breaking any cycle, you have to take the time to slow down and do inventory. I even thinking back on like my parents, and I'm sure my grandparents, like, you get so caught up in just life. I got to do this. I got to go to work. I got to pay the bills. Got to get the kids here. I got to do that. I got to, and you just don't really, you just kind of going and not really taking any kind of inventory on
what's wrong,
what happened. You have a rough year, you have a rough season, and, it's just like, well, dang, that sucked. And then you go on, when I think that something important, and I know both you and I teach this, we have to stop and take inventory. I told my students at the end of the semester, I said, hey, the last day of class, I said, look, if you did not finish this class the way that you intended to, like if you're not pleased with the grade that you got, all that means is that you just need to take inventory of what led to the outcome you didn't want and try it again next semester. It does not mean that school is not for you. It does not mean that you're not intelligent. It does not mean that you do not belong here. It does not mean that this is a subject that you'll never understand. It only means that whatever you did leading up to this result, you just need to reevaluate. And you might have gotten an F this time. You might take it again and get a D. Matter of fact, I had a student, she took my class the first time and she made a D. I was so surprised. She came back to the class and she was like, you were a good instructor. I mean, I didn't say it, she did. Okay. But she was like, you were good. So I feel like I should have done better. So I'm because technically it was a pass. She didn't have to retake the class. But she was like, I want to do better. I think I can do better. And she took the class again and she made a B. And I told her at the end of the semester, like, I'm so proud of you, because she looked at, this is all the stuff that I did that led to something that I'm not pleased with. And I think that if we do that more often, we can put a stop to a lot of things. But oftentimes we're not even evaluating what led to it. We're just kind of we're only examining the fruit, right? We only look at the person that did it, right? We only look at, man, that person in the family is a bum. They ain't never got no money. And if you look at it well, their father didn't have any money either. Their parents never bought a home, or they never brought anything that was going to leave a legacy for their children. So that is a generational curse of poverty. Yeah. They don't know how to get money. They don't know how to keep money. They don't know how to manage money. That is a curse. That is something to take inventory of and say, let me make sure I'm sticking to a budget. Let me align myself so that I'm in the career that is going to help me to take care of my family. Let me sit down with my partner at the end of every quarter or the end of the year, and we look at our finances and our budget together and say how we need to reassess it. But most people are not doing that. We're just living. We're just doing stuff. And then we continue to complain about the way that things are, when complaining doesn't change anything. It never has. Complaining has never changed a thing. That means that you recognize that there's bad fruit on the tree, but then it's time to investigate, well, what kind of tree is this, and what kind of fruit, what should the fruit look like on the tree? And then let me go into the root of the tree to see, that's what a person would do. Let me go examine what went wrong, since now I know what it's supposed to look like, which for us as believers, the Word of God tells us what our lives should look like. Yep. What our families should look like, the relationship between parents and child, the relationship between husband and wife. It tells us the relationship that you have with God, the relationship that you have with others. It tells us. And I'm looking at my fruit, and I'm looking at what the fruit of this tree is supposed to look like. So now I need to investigate what went wrong. That's why we have scientists. That's why we have researchers. They investigate. That's why we have doctors. They investigate, okay, what's wrong with this? Why is your lung not working the way it's supposed to? Why is your heart not functioning in the way that it was created to? But we continue to live lives, and we want everybody else to come in and fix stuff, and we complain about it. But in order for us to break anything that we're not pleased with, or that, most important, is not pleasing to Him, we got to stop and take inventory. So can you talk about inventory, Coach Bri?
Yes. Let me talk about mindset really quick first,
Yes, go.
So speaking of how we are operating in the same cycles and then we complain about it, our brains are built to protect us, right? So anything that feels foreign, anything that doesn't feel right, our mind is just like, I ain't doing that. I'm going to stay right here because this is comfortable. This is where I find comfort. This is what's safe. So I'm not going to step out of this comfort zone. It takes for us to realize that we have more power than we think we do. Yeah. Over our minds. We think that we're powerless. And that's what the enemy wants us to think, right? When we get the racing thoughts and we get the I'm just going to stay here, I'm never going to be good enough, the limiting beliefs, that's where the enemy wants us to be.
Slow down.
And whenever we are in that place, the enemy thinks he's won. We have to take our power back. So whenever you take your power back, what does that look like? It means literally changing the narrative. It means when you get that negative thought, you capture it and you say, look, this ain't that. Like immediately. Or when you see yourself operating in a way that just doesn't seem right, you capture it and you say, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing this. Let me do something different. A lot of us don't because of how uncomfortable it is to make the change, or how you feel like you're going to be judged if you're the one in the family that decides, I don't think I want to do that because this group over here is chattering about the same old thing. And you're like, I want to get outside the group and do something different, but they're going to judge me if I do. Okay, and what? That's a limiting belief. You don't have to operate in the same way. If we want to change the narrative, if we want to break the generational curses, if we want to break the cycle, it starts with you. Literally, it starts with you. Yeah. And if you want to see the change, you just have to be intentional about saying, you know what? I want something different. And the thing is that sometimes we want something different, but our actions don't even match what our words are saying. Yeah. We have to follow through. So when it comes to making the change, and complaining doesn't help, as you said, it just takes an intentional, I keep using the word intentional because that's really what it is. And it's discipline. Yeah. It's really about, when you think about inventory, now to the next point, it's looking at what you have, right? Okay, this is everything that I have. Now, what in this do I have that I don't need? You start taking it out. Okay, I don't need this, I don't need this, I don't need that. But you do have to replace it with something to keep your stock up. You know what I'm saying? Like there has to be something that you're replacing it with. So if you're taking out complaining, you should replace it with gratitude every day. I'm going to vow not to complain today. Instead, I'm going to just, man, I'm thankful that I can see. I'm thankful that I can wake up with a house with lights. I'm thankful that I have a car to drive. Yeah. I'm thankful for my health. I have legs. I can walk. Like when you think about your inventory, what's in your stock? What do you have? Take out the stuff that you don't need. Because when you're looking at the bigger picture, it's really about, dang, is this everything that I have? What do I need to take out of here? Now, what do I need to add to make sure I'm stocked up? Because like even in my job, when you think about inventory, it's one of those things where you want to keep the stock up. Because if you start running out, like spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, when you start to feel defeated and depleted of those, you start to run dry. You have to continue to keep that inventory up. Yeah. Spiritually, what are you doing spiritually? Do you have time with God? Do you have a supportive group around you? Like, hey, let's pray together. Mentally, what are you doing to feed your mind? What are you focusing on? What are you intentionally doing? So as we're going into the new year, we want to make all these changes, and that's great. Make the changes, but make sure it's realistic. Make sure you can actually attain it, because if you make this long list and you want to change it tomorrow, it's not going to happen like that. Yeah. You literally have to think about the starting point. Sometimes we're afraid to just start because of how big it seems. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We're afraid to just get started, when really those small steps, and this goes even with generational curses, the small things that you do every day, the small changes that you make every day gets you to that bigger goal of better communication. Yeah. Teaching my kids about, no one touching them, or mental health. So it just, I can rant. I can talk about it all day. Oh, literally.
No, same. Because it's a big deal. And I think you said something that a lot of people want something different. I think that many of us want something different, and when we don't really see how to get there, we find, these different coping mechanisms to just kind of get through the day and get through life. And, I'm gonna go turn up every weekend, and that's how I'm gonna kind of get my peace and, feel like I'm happy with my life. But the reality is, no, your day-to-day life, you are not satisfied with the way that it is. And I just think that if you know that there's something missing, and I believe that, if your relationship with Christ is not where it should be, and you're not where he created you to be at this time in your life, there's supposed to be a void there, because we came from God. So there's something in us that's still going to be craving to get a piece of that back, right? Then don't overwhelm yourself. Just one thing at a time, one step at a time. All it takes is to start with God. Where am I right now? Like, what are we doing? What needs to change? And I've been talking about this for the past few months with a family member of mine, like fasting. I know that it's something that a lot of us don't like to do. It's not fun. But fasting is so essential to just being very clearly being able to hear from God. Okay, where am I and what am I supposed to be doing right now? Because we don't know. There might be things that God has us doing and paths that he's taking us on that we don't even know that, this is my grandmother's thing that she was supposed to do, or that, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was something that my family was supposed to accomplish, and that's the reason why our bloodline is here. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why this family is here, and we were supposed to do this thing, but everybody was afraid. There was something that a family member of mine, my grandmother, shared with me a few years before she passed away, and it was about a spiritual gift that God had given her, and that the reason why she didn't use it. And the more that I just continued to think about that conversation, especially after she passed away, I recognized how some of the things that she said that she feels like she should have done, that burden is now on me. And I'm just like, this doesn't even make any sense. But it's generational.
Yeah.
It's not just about the generational curses and the bad things that come out of your bloodline. There is a purpose. There's something that God has called your family to do. The reason why David's bloodline was there was because he needed to be the bloodline that Jesus was born from. Like, every bloodline has a purpose and things that they're supposed to accomplish. So just aligning yourself with God to know what that is. And if I really believe if we align ourselves with him, then you gonna break the generational curses, because you with the curse breaker. You with the person who has that power and the authority to help you do it. So I don't know. I really feel like it always comes back to Jesus, like just keeping your eyes on God and being intentional and taking inventory. Don't just let life pass you by. Don't just live day to day, but actually be intentional about, last year sucked. For some of us, 2023 might have been the worst year of our life. Some of us, it could have been the best.
Yeah.
Both sets of people should take inventory. Both sets of people should be going to God, going into this new year and saying, and it's not too late, where should my direction be for next year? So in closing, like, what do we feel like people should know about what can empower them to break generational curses? Or if they feel like, hey, I do have the awareness, the things that we complain about, that's a sign that you're aware, right?
Yeah.
I do have awareness that this is a pattern in my family. What do we leave them with?
One of the first things, and you spoke on it earlier in Ephesians, like, we're at war.
Every
Like,
day.
we have to arm ourselves literally every day. It's not a physical war. Like, I mean, I know people out there fighting, but literally we're being attacked in our minds first. It's mentally first. And if the enemy can get you mentally, he's got you. So when it comes to what can I do to break the generational curse, it's to fight back. Like, literally fight back. Like, boo boo, black eye.
Right. Like, hit back.
Fight. Stand yourself.
Come on, Craig. Get up, Craig.
Come on. Oh, God. Yes. That kind of fight.
Yeah.
Like, stand up.
Yeah.
Get your power back. The enemy wants you to think that you took a L.
Yeah.
And even if you got a black eye, it's okay. Get up, put some ice on it.
Because you're going to get bruised up, man.
You're going to get bruised. It's going to hurt.
It's not easy.
It is very uncomfortable to break a generational curse. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's not just for one person either.
No. It is very uncomfortable to just say, you know what? I know that things have been this way, but I don't want to do it that way. You're going to be judged a little bit. You're going to be talked about. So what? So what? Who cares? What do you want to see done differently? And are you going to be intentional about saying, you know what, self said, let's do something else. Let's do something different. So I encourage everyone, if you are wanting to break the cycle, break the strongholds, break the mental chains that are on your mind, be intentional. Just do it. Take your power back. Fight back, literally. And I mean in the word of God. I mean by speaking up and using your words. It starts with us. And we have to be the change. We can't just talk about it any longer. It's not just a talk, it's action. That's what I leave y'all with. What about you?
I mean, what else is there to say? I'll find it. Yeah, I mean, the power source, and again, generational curses are not an easy thing to break, and I don't believe that they're on one person. It takes several generations for certain things to come off. But I think it's like a relay race. Like, do your part. Do your part. And the ultimate source of the strength that we are going to need is found in Christ. We are going to fall short daily. Get back up. When you feel like I'm tired of getting back up, get back in that word. Be reminded of who you've come from, who you are, what God says that you are, and get back up. As long as you have breath in your body, there is still an opportunity to turn things around for your family. Because guess what? We ain't been wiped off the earth yet. I don't know how close we are to it.
Okay.
To the nuclear wars and all the craziness, but we're still here, and there are generations that are also coming after us. There's already generations coming after us. If you're a parent already, a grandparent already, if you are still here, I don't care if you was beating all your kids upside the head their whole life. If you're still here, you have an opportunity to turn things around. That's it, y'all. This is a new year. This is a new beginning. And, I don't necessarily subscribe to the new year, new me. I do that on my birthdays, right? Mm-hmm. That's when I take my inventory of, okay, what did year 30 teach you or whatever. But I know for a lot of people, this is a new beginning. And so I just really encourage all of you, before you, run full speed ahead at the goals that you've written down, take some time to sit with God, just sitting in silence and just asking him where he would have you to go, asking him to order your steps, and taking inventory of the patterns that you already recognize, and just be intentional day by day. Like, I said it, I accidentally slipped up, but I'm gonna go back and apologize and switch it. Even if you fall, like, I did it. I took a puff off the weed. I'm gonna put it down. I'm just giving it, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is, if you fall, it's okay. Just having a mindset that this is something that I intend to stop is a huge step. So if you fell off last year, if last year sucked for you, it's fine. If you still have breath in your body, there is still opportunity for you to break curses and to release generational blessings. So,
can I say something real quick?
Go ahead.
About falling?
Go ahead.
Falling. We think falling is just this. You triggered me. Falling. So when you fall down, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
You get bumps, bruises, and I think about when my daughter going down the hill, she fell off her bike, and that was a learning lesson for me, because I talked to her like, so what happens when we fall down? What do we do when we fall down? You literally choose to get back up, because I can stay on the ground and cry about it. I can stay on the ground bleeding about it. I can stay on the ground and just wallow in it. I can stay there.
Triggering me.
Or I can get up. We can choose to get up. Get up and fight back. Like, the falling down is the hard part. It hurts, like when you fall down, but getting up, that's the part. That's the choice. We have to choose it.
Ooh, that's good. Ooh, you triggered me just a little bit. We finna end this episode, y'all.
Right.
Look, falling down. So, like, let's just say, like, you were the molester in your family. Let's say that you are the addict or whatever in your family. The getting back up looks like, I'm not going to let falling down define me.
Yes.
I'm not going to let this thing that happened to me or this thing that I've done define me. I'm going to literally, you know what people have to do if you fall, you scrape your knee, you have to dust some of the dirt or
off,
gravel
yes.
off of your knees. I'm going to dust it off. I'm going to go get cleaned up, which is when I go to God and I say, God, I repent, God, you know, whatever the case may be, make your things right with God. And then as you allow that to heal, you keep walking. A lot of us, we think that because we survived something through living through it, that means that we've gotten up off the ground, and we haven't gotten up off the ground. Like that thing still controls the way that you are with your spouse. It controls how you are with your friends. It controls how you are with your children. Just because you're still living and you survived it, that doesn't mean that it takes a lot of strength to get up after, especially when you knocked yourself down.
Oh my goodness.
Let's not even talk about the people that knock it, because it's you know, people knock you down. But when you knock yourself down, it's not an easy thing to do. But just because you're alive, reassess. Don't, because some of us, I think we're telling ourselves that I'm a strong person and I survived this thing and I'm over it. No, it is still controlling you.
Yep.
You are triggered every time you look at your kids. You are triggered every time you look at the news. You are triggered every time you get a bill in the mail. Like, actually take inventory. Don't assume just because you're still alive that you've gotten up. Some of you alive, but you're still on the ground.
Get up.
Get up.
Stand up.
Get up. Come on, Craig. Come on, Craig. Get up, Craig.
Okay. I'm a man without it.
And I is.
It is. Well, this was really great.
This was, we told a little business on here, you know. We still got to bleep some things out, but
cut it a little bit.
yeah, we're going to have to cut some stuff out of this episode, but we love y'all. Like, there's a lot of people that did not make it into this new year, and to be here is a blessing. To be in a new year is a blessing. That means that God is giving us another opportunity to do something. Mm-hmm. He's even giving us another opportunity to mess up. He is. But his grace is sufficient. Like, if he doesn't kill you after you do it, that means you just might be all right. Like, let's keep going. Let's keep pushing, you know? But we love y'all. We hope that this year is everything that God says it is. We hope that everything that has your name on it, everything that is for you this year, that you receive it. And we hope that you cling to him like never before, because we're also going to need him a lot this year, even more than last year. So we love y'all, and we appreciate y'all for rocking with us. And stay tuned, because this year is going to be good.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.